Welcome to another episode on Premier 7. I am your host, Ryan Nelson. I hope that you all are having a fantastic day. Well, some of you may be, whilst some of you may be having a fantastic day. As you can see here on the platform, there is an upgrade to where presentation is concerned. Because once presentation is up there, then I assume then the attraction will be incoming. So, people, today I want to talk about several big topics of concern surrounding the Jamaica men's national team. I am sure that not only myself was given that chance to sit at home, watch the game, and pick what makes sense from what doesn't make sense. You also did have that chance if you were not streaming the game or you were elsewhere. So, I want to talk on a few points. Firstly, I want to talk about Coach Hallgrimsson. He has lost the fans like myself. A recap of the game between Jamaica and Mexico, and is there any hopes from now on? Because it is absolutely important to see where Jamaica is going. And for me personally, I don't want for the national team to be going back to the past. We have the team to go forward. We have what it takes to do well in upcoming games. And today on Premier 7, I want to just dive into these crucial matters. Stick around for the news to be shared. All right. So as you can see down below the screen, the topic is in section of 3. Coach Hallgrimsson lose the fans, Jamaica match recap, and any hopes for the Reggae Boys from now on. But before I talk about that, people, if you're new to Premier 7, please go ahead, watch, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are already a subscriber, please go ahead to share the contents, comment, leave a like, and you know that once we have an interaction taking place, Premier 7 as a platform is known for being not biased. All right, so right now, I just want to speak directly to the first point of the channel discussion. Coach Hallgrimsson lose the fans. When I was watching the game yesterday, I was saying to myself that Reggae Boys is looking quite decent comparing to the two games that we played against Dominica and Dominican Republic. We were somewhat shaky, whereas those two games were concerned. I wasn't impressed with the not the overall performance where the team was concerned, but the national team was playing a bit basic, flat footed. But when we start to play against the Mexicans, it's like when you have some players who only plays well in big games, and to me, that was what the Reggae Boys was executing on the pitch. Yes, there were areas of issues concerning the national team, but just on how the team was performing, I was impressed with how the team looked on and off the ball. Yes, of course, there were areas of concern, but guess what? We looked as if we were in the groove. We're about to fight for our first point, our first goal, or even to say our first victory that could have led to 3 points for us in the Copa America. But it wasn't meant to be. We lost again. And how many times will the national team lose against Mexico? Coach Hallgrimsson, what went wrong yesterday for the national team? I did a poll about this, who to be blamed, whereas the Reggae Boys was concerned with the loss against and I received some votes from the fans, and I just want to show it to you to prove that I am not telling any lies. So here it is. The poll was this. I said, who should be blamed for Jamaica regular 1-0 loss versus the Mexicans? And as you can see, I received several votes, 20 votes to be exact. 80% says Coach Grimson, whereas 20% says the players. But there was a comment that, boosts me to take upon myself to do this video. I have to point out this comment. The person says, why we have to look for someone to blame? That's counterproductive. They played good and we just didn't win. It just leave it as how it is and encourage them to do better next match. So I have to say, I appreciate the comment from the person who was speaking directly about the post done by Premier 7. For me personally, it's not a case to be counterproductive or to say that I am blaming anyone, but we want to see which angle to take it from as to what went wrong. And I personally believe that Coach Hallgrimsson made a mistake, whereas the national team was concerned. Two substitution was being done, and he took off a Demarai Gray and a Deshaun Bernard, and he brought on an Hector and a Damian Lowe. What did that say to you as the fans who watched the game yesterday? Honestly speaking, it was a case of being pragmatic and becoming defensive in the game. Was it a concern for which Demarai Gray had to be pulled from the game? Was he injured and was still on the pitch playing? That wasn't pointed out to us. We weren't informed that that was the case. So for me personally, that was a bad move. If you're going to take off a Demarai Gray, why not put on a Cephas or a Kahim Dixon? Because we kicked off the second half on the front foot. Jamaica was playing quite decent, matching Mexico ball by ball, whereas the second half was concerned. We went into the second half nil all. And to see Deshaun Bernard pulled and Hector came on, well, we can say maybe that was somewhat of a sensitive decision, but again, it wasn't because Deshaun Bernard was playing quite decent for the national team. That was one of the main reasons why I was saying to myself, the back three could have been an issue for the national team, whereas some of our key players will not benefit from such formation. So having four at the back to me was more so the rightful way to go out and to help the national team to have a balance. But I'm going to speak about the match recap shortly. But I just want to speak directly to Coach Hallgrimsson. So, Coach Hallgrimsson, for us, we can say is that type of coach who will play like a defensive type of ball game against any opposition that loves to play on the front foot, that likes to put the ball over the top, who likes to play, not to say counter, but whereas pressing football is concerned, you cannot be a pragmatic coach. You cannot be a coach who will play defensive. We have to play, let's say, balance or on the balls of our feet, or to play press for press, right? So in that case, for me, Coach Hallgrimsson, he totally lost the fans yesterday. Um, some of us would say that Coach Hallgrimsson should not be sacked. That would be too rushful to say that sack Coach Hallgrimsson. I think that Coach Hallgrimsson, he may not be the right man for the national team, but where the team is concerned for now in the Copa America and looking forward to make it to the World Cup, I don't think it is the right time to make such rush decision. If we perform poorly against Ecuador and Venezuela, and I assume then that we will have a break between that competition and the World Cup qualifiers, then we could then look for somebody else who could come in and replace an Hallgrimsson, right? But for now, I would not say sack Coach Hallgrimsson, give him the chance to go and see how well he can develop the youths and the national team. The thing is, with the national team, then again, sometimes the players are unavailable who we need to represent. And for other clubs, where football is concerned, and let's say international football teams are concerned, a lot of these teams have been training, like say 1 month before the competition begins. Let's say they're in a camp. But for Jamaica, some of our players were unavailable. And things like that can really and truly affect the team's prowess, the team's gel, the team chemistry, and the team dominance in regards to knowing what is our strengths compared to our weaknesses. Right? So, people, I think that Jamaica played quite decent compared to the first 2 games in the World Cup qualifiers. But whereas our team was playing in this game against Mexico, we did fairly well. We did fairly well. And in that case, I just want to move from the point of Coach Hallgrimsson and touch up on the game by way of a match recap against the Mexicans, right? Because this game was, it wasn't 50-50, but we were somewhat getting there, whereas performance was concerned. And I just want to play this quick highlight where the goal was being scored. Oh boy, it was really disappointing. All right, so that goal was a banger for the Mexicans, but honestly speaking, I was disappointed. I was absolutely disappointed with what happened. So let's see the first comment that comes up here. So Gerald Jones, he mentioned that as you make us, we seem to be the overly passionate, but sometimes we need to use logics and reasoning. But what we know is took the small country every to World Cup made up of amateur players. I am trying to understand what Mr. Gerald Jones is saying here, but let me see here. The first point that he mentioned is saying that as you make us, we seem to be the overly passionate. I'm not really understanding the point here, but the comment is appreciated. But I am somewhat understanding the middle section of the comment where he's saying that, but sometimes we need to use logics and reasoning. All right, I'm not sure if that is directed at me or it is going directed to the coach and the selection, but let me just use whereas the coach and the selection is concerned. All right, so whereas the team is concerned, whereas logics has to be pointed out. Um, for sure, the team was performing well. Whereas the first half was concerned, there was a balance. We were matching Mexico, even though they had more position. We were not looking to hit them on the counter, really, but we were trying to find a way as to how we can find the ball at our feet and find a space. Yes, Jamaica was trying to hit the ball over the top and to an Antonio or a Shamar Nicholson, but we were trying to find a way as to how to break down the Mexican teams. I saw whereas Jamaica was trying to, well, they were playing the ball within their position, passing the ball from the back, but once it reaches the midfield or approaches the midfield, the ball was looped over the top. So that was where the issue was concerning. But guess what? Whereas the team was concerned, in regards to the second half, there was somewhat of a discussion that was being held, and that was the reason why we hit very fast, starting the second half in a good manner. But as was expressed, the coach he made a horrible decision. He took off some of our key players. Let me just share the team that was being utilized in the game. All right. So we lost against Mexico 1-0. But I just want to recap the game, right? For sure, our 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 goalkeeper, he was on point with how he kept the goals away from the team before we conceded. Jamali Wait, He played brilliant. It's a case of which I had some concern when we did not have Andre Blake because, to be honest, I wasn't really impressed with how Jamala Wade was playing in the first World Cup qualifiers. But he found form and he played convincing to some extent in that game. That is the two World Cup qualifying games. But the last game that was being played, that was yesterday, he played fantastic. He stepped up to the plate, and it looks as if we did not miss anybody. And this is the formation I'm seeing here that Jamaica went with a 3-4-2-1. A 3-4-2-1. So if I made an error before, I am corrected. I always stand corrected. So Ethan Pinnock, Latibodier, Deshaun Bernard was the back three. They were fairly, I won't say excellent, but their performances was acceptable. They played as to how the team should have been playing. They kept Mexico away from our goals. They did not keep the line too deep because the deeper you kept the line, Jamaica could have been in a big problem in that case. But these three guys at the back, they played okay. The midfield, Lemby Kisa, Bobby Reed, Casey Palmer, Greg Lee. I am not so sure now about the ratings that Lemby Kisa received, to be honest, because he was the main concern for me. He was the main concern for me, whereas the number 9 from the Mexican team was being problematic. That is Julian. He was giving Lembikisa a fight for his money. But I am seeing the ratings saying that Lembikisa was giving the best ratings on the pitch. To be honest, Lembikisa was good offensively. The goal that was offside for Mikel Antonio, Lembikisa provided assistance, but defensively he wasn't convincing all to that. But as what SofaScore says, and I will disagree again, Lembikisa should not receive such high ratings of it. He could receive like a 7. He could have received like a 7. But the midfield, Casey Palmer, Bobby Reed, Greg Lee to the wide as the left wing back, I think the midfield looked more. Let me say, I saw the presence of the midfield if I should compare to the two past games that we played in the World Cup qualifiers. Shamar Nicholson, Demarai Gray. Demarai Gray was locked down by the Mexican team. He wasn't given so much opportunities. But Shamar Nicholson wasn't bad. I would say that many persons would say that Antonio wasn't impressive. People, I think that Mikel Antonio played well. And I may receive some backlash for this, but presently speaking, Mikel Antonio looked impressive for the national team. Whereas pressing is concerned, whereas holding onto the ball is concerned, whereas keeping the ball at his feet is concerned. Do you think that Jamaica could have utilized any other player in that front line without an Antonio? Honestly, I don't think Jamaica could have done so well in the first half. Yes, he should have been onside, but he was almost there. Antonio, to me, he played the better of the two going forward, whereas Nicholson was concerned and whereas a Antonio was concerned. His presence was being known. He was breaking the lines, he was making some runs, he was keeping the ball in his position on the left side, on the right side. Nicholson was doing his thing. But honestly speaking, for me personally, as your content creator here, I would hold up my hands to say Mikel Antonio was impressive because he has not been playing for Jamaica in several games. And some of us would have been saying that Mikel Antonio should not start. And he started the game and he was not bad at all. Right? So, in that case, what would you say though about the national team? Did you or do you believe that Jamaica could have made somewhat of a difference whereas the national team is concerned for the game yesterday? The only issue I had was a substitution, whereas Hector Damian Lowe came on too early in the 68th minute for a Gray and a Bernard. But Ronaldo Cephas, who came on in the 80th minute, and Kaim Dixon as well for an Antonio and Bobby Reed, maybe that was too late. maybe that was too late. But I don't want to be negative. I am impressed about how Jamaica start the Copa America. It's just that we should not lose that game to the Mexicans. It was a good goal that was scored by Ortega, but how many times are we going to lose against Mexico and the United States? Let me see here. All right, so before I decide to close the show, I just want to take into consideration the final points. So, do we have any hopes from now on? Is there any hopes? Remember, Ecuador lost to Venezuela. Jamaica, it was expected that we would have lost against Mexico, and we should be thankful that we played so well against Mexico. Um, is there any hopes though? It is 50-50. It is very much 50-50. But there's no injuries that we have right now, and our next game will be playing next week, I think, on Wednesday. So if every player is fit, let's say a Demarai Gray is fully fit and ready for the games, then I think then that with a different team playing against and Jamaica has to win, I don't want to say draw. We have to win that game. The confidence will be there for the opposition teams, but Jamaica has to build on what happened in the Mexican game. I think that Jamaica can do well against Mexico in the future because we have a fairly young squad, right? Even though we have some older folks in the national setup. But I think going forward against Ecuador and Venezuela, Jamaica have the potential to do something like to pull a rabbit out of the hat. All right, so people, I am just here to just speak about this topic in question that Coach Heimer Hallgrimsson lost the fans, Jamaica match recap, and any hopes from now on. It was a different twist to Premier 7. I decided to do something different, and I hope that this video would have been impressive enough for you, the fans, because then again, confidence speaks value, changes is a must, and if Reggae Boys can take a page out of my book and even out of your book, then we can go further and do something much better. People, I thank you so much for the support and for tuning in today for the live video. You all take care, be safe until we meet again. Bye bye and goodbye.